Hello and welcome to my first look at classic Doctor Who paperbacks. So Doctor Who's been represented in book form since, 1964, and has never really been out of print since. The books featured in this video, we got a few that were released in the 60s, and then the odd making of book, and then Target launched onto the scene in 1973, and we'll have a look at the first 2 years of the Target books. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so here we have the very first book in our video today. Now, this was published by Armada, and it is Doctor Who in an Exciting Adventure with the Daleks by David Whittaker. So this one was, Armada books were generally aimed at children, although, this is actually quite a sophisticated novel, this, although they call the Doctor Who. It's not actually too bad a reader. Oh, look at that, Power of the Daleks. Quite a nice little edition, fairly easy to find, this one, so not going to set you back too much money. They are quite difficult to find in nice nick though, so but great, quite nice cover there, representing a mixture of Hartnell and Troughton by the look of it. But there we go. So that's the first one, 1964, the very first Doctor Who paperback. Now, 1 year after this came the Dalek Pocketbook and Space Traveller's Guide. Now, this was published by Panther in the UK, and this was basically to tie in with the popularity of the Daleks. By this time, the first Dalek movie had been released, and that's where this still comes from. This is actually a great little tie-in book. There are Dalek stories, there's non-fiction, general information about space as well. It's almost like a traditional British annual put into paperback form. Not particularly common, this one, particularly in nice condition, although I believe some fans did reissue it a few years back, and that's a lot cheaper to get. But really nice, a classic sort of cover. I like the way they use the Dalek logo there. Great, really nice book, that one. The next one in our video to look at today is The Crusaders. So another one by David Whittaker, and obviously adapts Doctor Who and the Crusade. This was published by Green Dragon, which was another children's publisher in Britain. Around this time, they were reprinting the Biggles books. And this is their one and only Doctor Who one. Very interesting in jacket, that one, certainly unusual. Quite an unusual one. Once again, quite difficult to find in nice nick. But there we go. That's another 60s one. Now, by this time, Doctor Who was already being shown in the States. Admittedly limited distribution, but this one was to tie in perhaps more to the Dalek movies again, rather than the TV series. So this is Doctor Who and the Daleks by David Whittaker, but it's the Avon book, so it's a USA edition. Avon were a popular publisher. They did lots of movie tie-ins. And this is their version of that. Awful cover using some of the 60s toys. And I believe that is still possibly from the movie there. The red staining on the outside, typical of American books of the period. And this one came out in 1967 along with the Crusaders around the same time. So that's Doctor Who and the Daleks. And that was it. That was it for about 5 years in paperback form, until you have the Doctor Who annuals, of course, until Pan Books in the UK, under their publishing imprint Piccolo, published The Making of Doctor Who. So this introduced us to John Pertwee as the Doctor, and this was the making of the episode The Sea Devils from season 8, an absolute classic Doctor Who story. I really love this book. I always have done. It's so difficult to find in nice condition because of that black cover, and this is not mint by any means, but it's still a really nice one, and it's got a photo insert section inside, a bit of a history of the programme, and obviously the actual show up until that point. Obviously they did a revised version later on the Making of Doctor Who, but this was the original one, and it's great. So highly recommended that you track a copy of this one down, because it's a superb book, and certainly one of the highlights of my collection, this one. That's the making of Doctor Who. So on the back of this, 1 year later, and you'll notice the authors there, Terence Dixon, Malcolm Hulke. 1 year later, along comes the first 3 Target books. This is 1973. So we had a re-release of the Daleks. We had the Zarbi, which had never previously come out in paperback form before, but was from the 60s. And also Doctor Who and the Crusades. So those 3 came out, and these were the first 3 to launch the Target range in 1973. Now you'll notice with these first editions, these actually have numbers on the spine, and that's an easy way to tell these. And I am actually just going to pause the video there because I've got some of the really early Target books from this era, and I'm going to just pause there and I'm going to go and grab them because I think they'll be an interesting comparison. Okay, so I've gone up to the collection and I've grabbed these 3 books here. Now these Target books were also all came out in 1973, were published then, and you'll notice once again they've also got the distinctive partial ISBN on the spine there. Nothing to do with Doctor Who except the Doctor Who books are mentioned there in the front of this one, in this one by Graham Cook. Let's see, also available, the 3 Doctor Who books. And this one here, Wings of Glory, actually says, once again, it's got the first 2. It doesn't actually mention the Daleks in that one, so maybe that had already come out. But quite interesting. Target soon dropped the numbering on the spine and made it a bit more uniform. But if you ever are looking and you want to pick up one of those first 3, I think they only had fairly low print runs, maybe 30,000. So not a lot of copies to go around in the grand scheme of things. And trying to find them in nice high grade is not going to be easy. However, they are out there. Persevere, they'll come along. All the books you see here in my collection are actually first paperback editions. I collect reprints, but that will be the subject of another video, because I do like all the different covers on the Target books in particular. But the ones I'm showing you today are all just first editions. Okay, so then the following year, in 74, we start having a few more releases. So this is the Auton invasion. And you notice this has got sort of a glossier cover to it. This did not carry on, but this sort of laminate you often find peeled off. So it makes this one quite a tough one to find in nice nick in first edition. So that's 1974's Auton invasion, and a similar situation with the cave monsters. This is probably the first one I remember reading as a kid. I always remember that classic Crusaders cover, absolutely fantastic, and I loved it when I finally got around to watching the original. I absolutely loved this one. Obviously Doctor Who and the Silurians, one of those cases of Target changing the title of the story. Day of the Daleks, another absolute cracker of a story. I really like this one. Terence Dixon at his best there, another good one. And then we have the Doomsday weapon, which is another one which is notorious for finding in really nice condition. This one isn't bad, although I think, if I could come across another one, I wouldn't mind a little upgrade. But that's also 1974. The Demons, Barry Letts, an absolute classic. Once again, I was slightly let down when I eventually got around to seeing it, when it I think it was a dodgy old bootleg back in the early 80s, but on reflection it is really, really good. I absolutely love it. And the book is equally good. Barry Letts did a very good job with the adaptation there. So one thing to point out, this is the first book in the video. You'll see the little Target logo there is ever so slightly faded. That is quite the Target books are susceptible to this, so keep an eye out for that if you want them looking nice. The early ones are so colourful when they're on the shelf. Try to avoid fading if possible. Sea Devils, what a beautiful cover that is. Christos Akilos again. Classic book, classic cover. What more can you say? It's interesting, these early ones, these Pertwee ones, they did still also have internal illustrations. I'm not sure which was the last book to stop that, but yeah, great. We're still in 1974. Abominable Snowmen. So we've actually using one of the finally going back to an older Doctor now, Patrick Troughton. And of course, we're still using the block logo. We've got a few more books with that, but it looks like they went, they raided the archive there and decided to adapt one of the earlier books there, earlier stories rather. Then we've got Curse of Peladon, which is an absolute classic again. I believe this was repeated, so that may have spurred on the fact to bring the novelization out. This is another one which is got a partial lamination on the front. And shows the ones that are coming out. And still 1974. So that's Curse of Peladon. Doctor Who and the Cybermen. So this is another classic Troughton adaptation. This one is, I believe, the Moon Base. This is tough to find in nice nick because of that black cover. It does make this one particularly difficult to find in nice condition. Once again, classic jacket. Yeah, 1974, that one. And we're almost there, so yeah, almost there. What we got here now? So the giant robot. So I believe this is the start of 1975. That one's actually, this one's rather signed by Terence Dix, the author. I really like this. So the block logo's gone by now, and they've experimented with the new Doctor Who logo, but they've got Tom Baker's face in there with some sort of target on his forehead there. Maybe that's to do with the story, but it was the one and only time they put the Doctor's face in that. I do like the addition, though, of the illustrations on the back as well. Excellent. Great story, great book. It's a classic for sure. And then we have the next one, Terror of the Auton. So back to Pertwee again, another classic season 8 opener, Terror of the Autons. Nice Delgado, although, it's not the best Delgado, but certainly Doctor's awful, but, still a really eye-catching cover that for Terror of the Autons, and this has obviously been copied from one of those, the classic still of one of the unit guys there with the Auton, but still not too bad, not too bad. So the Green Death, once again, a really interesting cover design there, popping in the. It almost looks comic book style, doesn't it? Nice, detailed, great story. This one. That could almost have been in the Silurians, couldn't it? But another really great adaptation, this one, and it comes recommended. Really easy to find that. I never had any issue finding nice mint copy of the Green Death. So this is Planet of the Spiders. This is I have good memories of this one. I actually had this one in hardback as a child. I remember. I like the jacket where I had the same jacket as this, where you see Pertwee regenerate into Tom Baker, and they actually did a really good job there on the artwork on that one. And see the spider from Metebilus 3 on the back there. Very nice, that 1975. And the last one that came out that year was the Three Doctors, with absolutely stonking cover representing the Three Doctors there. It's just another Christos Achilles masterpiece, this one. A nice longer novel as well. Terence Dix wasn't churning them out by this time. Really nice book, this one, and a great adaptation. And once again, this is quite interesting, the changing face of Doctor Who there. The cover portrays the first, second and third Doctors. That was a bit of a tradition going through the Target books by this time. And there we are. So that is the very first look at our Doctor Who books. So that's 1964, all the way Doctor Who and the Daleks, all the way up to Doctor Who, the Three Doctors from 1975. So that's the first 11 years of Doctor Who in paperback. I did hope you enjoyed that little look through those. Now, there are a couple of links that I put down below. One of them is to an excellent Target Books podcast. So if you want to listen to the guys review all the Doctor Who books in televised order, then that is the way to do it. So they start with the adaptation of An Earthly Child and work their way through. There's also a particularly good Facebook group for based in the UK, but anyone can join, and that's an easy way to get yourself a bit of a collection of Doctor Who Target books. And I will also put a link to grabbing some Target books if you want to dive straight in. There's always lots of cheap lots on eBay, so I shall put a direct link to go to the eBay site there. Lastly, there is just one more book I would like to mention, and that's the Target book, written and published by David J. Howe. That is the ultimate resource for Target books, and although out of print, you can find copies secondhand. So I shall also put a link on eBay for you to get one of those, because that is, if you're into Target books and you're looking to put a set together, that is the ultimate Bible. All right, so there we are. I do hope you've enjoyed that, and I shall be back soon to cover the next lot of books, probably from 1976 up to about 1980. I am, however, still missing a couple, so as soon as I've tracked those down, I'll do the next video. Okay, so there we are. Please like, share, subscribe, and do leave a comment and tell me what you liked or disliked about it. Thank you very much, and I shall see you soon. Bye.